This is Remo Daily, your daily dose of inspiration.
I listened to a podcast with you where you said you were diagnosed with pronoia. So I was wondering if we could help us understand what that is and how it plays out for you on a daily basis.
Sure. Yes, I just learned this. That's so great. You do your homework, obviously. I was being interviewed by a psychologist who, at the end of the podcast episode, diagnosed me with pronoia. Most of us know what paranoia is. It's this fear that people are out to get you or that the world is not in your favor. And he said that I was one of the few people that he had met that actually had a case of the opposite of that. Pronoia is when you walk around the world assuming that the universe is operating in your favor and that people want to help you and that they want to support you. And of course, I replied to him, but don't they? To which he laughed and said, that's why you have paranoia.
Wow, it's kind of, could it be described maybe as boundless optimism? Or
Well,
what is a better way to describe it when you think about how it feels for you?
to be honest, because my life's work is advancing women, and I spend a lot of time with women who are coming to me with some kind of challenge, and they want me to support them in achieving clarity through some kind of guidance or encouragement. For me, when he said it, I immediately went to having a strong sense of self worth, meaning that I have clarity about why I'm here. I believe that the investment that anyone makes in me, that the world's going to get a return on that investment. And so I ask people for their support. And I assume that people want to help Tiffany and that the universe is going to operate in my favor because if that happens, I actually genuinely believe the world is going to be a better place because every day I just wake up trying to make that the case. So at the end of the day, I think when he said it and I thought about it, it's for me, I think it's deeper than optimism. It's having self assuredness about why I'm here and about the universe and people really wanting to support that.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna ask you for advice right now. I live in a household with three female humans. And my partner is sick right now, and my older daughter, who is 9, was just a complete nightmare this morning that turned into a shouting match. And while this is not a specifically a career moment for anyone in my family, of course I still try to, advance them and empower them when they're at their weakest, or let's say not at their best. And you really strike me as a master of good lines. Like what you just said is very encouraging. But I wonder, in the day-to-day grittiness, would you have a line for me to for my for my women in my household?
Well, first of all, congrats. I'm the oldest of four girls. And so my father grew up in a household with all women. He also has eight sisters and was raised by his
Wow.
grandmother. So that's pretty special. It means there's something for you to learn from women in this lifetime. That's amazing. I mean, it sounds like your oldest is 9. When I was growing up, my father used to have all of these very cheesy quotes that I always giggled at because they were like dad inspiration quotes. And one of them was, "You believe it, you can achieve it." And I love saying that, when times are getting really intense in my household,
Mm.
because honestly, it just makes people roll their eyes. It adds some levity.
Oh, that's interesting. So you've kind of you fight the weak moments just with cheesiness, because then everybody gets a laugh, but also learn something, and you can. That is so clever. Okay, I'll take that as an advice and use that right after this show. Let's see how it works. Um, in your book, Drop the Ball: Achieving More by Less. We are sharing the link in a chat in a second. You say I used to be the poster girl for doing it all. Quote, like so many driven and talented women who have been brought up to believe that to have it all, they must do everything. quote end. But between, no, a quote continues, but between a full-time job and parenting, we just talked about that, you eventually began then to feel that there's something that doesn't work. There's a mission impossible here, which I think many of us have felt at some point. You wrote a whole book about this. So can you share with us what actually brought you to that realization? I'm sure it's a journey, but maybe there's a specific moment that you can share with us that was like a hashtag drop the ball moment when you decided that that's it, have to let go.
Yes, absolutely. So to be really clear, I wrote a book called Drop the Ball because I used to be a person who was terrified of ever dropping any balls, as you can tell from that quote. And for me, it had really deep consequences. I used to feel that if I dropped a ball, I was failing to take timely action and that I was disappointing people. I was disappointing myself, my community, my family, my coworkers, my boss. In my case, because of my identity as an African American woman, it sounds kind of crazy to me to say it out loud, but I used to think that if I dropped the ball, I would be disappointing the entire Black diaspora. As in, if I mess this up, they're never going to hire another Black person ever again. And if you share that identity and that socialization, you know what I'm talking about. The moment for me, and I've spoken with hundreds of people over the years, your drop the ball moment could be anything. It's basically when you, if you're like me and you have a bit of an A-type personality and you were able to, for a certain time in your life, keep the balls flowing in the air, it's when you have a moment when you're not able to execute in the way that you used to. And it's a very vulnerable and in some ways a scary moment because you had all of these ideas about what would happen, what the consequences would be if you ever dropped a ball. My drop the ball moment was the birth of my first child, but your drop the ball moment could be a diagnosis. It could be that you finally got the promotion and you've discovered that it's a lot harder to be the boss now that you're the boss than it was when you were just gossiping about the boss at the water cooler. Your drop the ball moment could be a viral pandemic. It could be an economic recession, whatever is happening in your life that's causing you to feel like, I can't keep this all together anymore. And my big, I call them Tiffany's epiphanies, some people call them aha moments, was that when I started dropping balls left and right as a new mother, Armageddon never really hit, meaning that all of the things I was always paranoid would happen if I ever dropped a ball, none of those things materialized in reality. No one ever called me to tell me that they didn't love me anymore. I didn't get fired from my job. No one said, I'm not going to be your friend because you missed the birthday party. The police didn't come and arrest me, which I was deeply concerned about because as part of my drop the ball fiasco, I stopped moving my car back and forth across the street for this silly thing called alternate side parking in New York City. And a bunch of those orange citations started piling up and I thought someone's going to come and arrest me, but they didn't. So I reappropriated the term is what happened. I decided that dropping the ball was not a terrible thing to do, that it would basically mean I was going to drop these unrealistic expectations that all of us have. And I was going to get really clear about what mattered most to me. Why did I feel all of this pressure? What really is my highest and best use? And more importantly, how can I get the support that I need from my ding, ding, ding community in order to move myself forward?
Before we talk about community, I have also a question to bring this to the all day and everyday. I feel completely overwhelmed at the moment. I feel like I've been running a marathon for, I don't know, 8 weeks now. And there's no reason to brag about this at all. It's just like not fun. And I'm sure there's people out there who are listening and feeling like, yeah, that's sort of where I am. And for some, it may be even the time of the year. They always feel like this because you're exhausted, but also there's so many more things to do before the year ends. So on a day-to-day basis, is there some guidance you can give or help me decide right now when and where to drop the ball or to hold on to it? Like, let's That's right now, Friday, 1:30
Yes.
p.m.
Yes. So first of all, the answer to this depends on how high your anxiety is and how you're really feeling in terms of your mental health. I mean, if you're at a point where you're literally not sure what the next step is that you can take, I highly encourage you to pick up your phone and send a text message to 3 people who you know love you. Hopefully there's at least 3 people. And I want you to just text them. I'm really overwhelmed right now. I'm so overwhelmed that I'm on this podcast and this woman is saying I should be texting a few of you. And that's what I'm doing because I think after this, I'm going to be, on the floor in tears. Because that's going to automatically give you a sense of belonging and affirmation. I promise if you send a text like that to people who love you, they're going to feed you what you need to hear. But the second thing I would say is usually when we're overwhelmed and we're responsible people who care about the people around us, it's because we feel some level of responsibility to other stakeholders, whether it's those 3 daughters or whether it's the partner or whether it's our work colleagues. One of the most important things that you can do without any planning, just in the moment, is to reach out to any one of the stakeholders and to say, listen, it's the end of the year. I'm completely overwhelmed right now. I really want to be a good partner. I really want to be a good manager. I really want to be a good associate. I really want to be a good student. Whatever your relationship, I really want to be a good dad, whatever your relationship is to that person. And to say, I'm wondering, because how you think I'm doing in this job or in this role matters to me. What are the top 3 things that you feel like if I just nailed those 3 things over the next 8 weeks, over the next 6 months, or even if it's just today, if you're at the point where you're like, I just need to get through the day, what are the top 3 things that you need from me? It will be so helpful to you to hear from the people who matter most to you what they need from you in this moment, today, over the next several weeks. I promise you, your expectation about what you need to be accomplishing and doing in any period of time is likely much higher. If you really are that overwhelmed and stressed, it means you care. And it means you likely have high expectations of yourself. You can bring it down a notch by reaching out to them. And what inevitably happens is that people help you with dropping the ball because they'll say, well, what else is on your plate outside of getting us the Christmas tree? Like planning, whatever. And you're saying, well, I have this and I have this and I have this. And they'll say, but that's not important to us. I think you can drop the ball on that. So I really think it's important that, particularly when emotionally or psychologically, you don't have the bandwidth to follow a framework or read a book, that you just reach out to the stakeholders who you feel that you would be disappointing if you did not accomplish whatever is overwhelming you.
Okay, I'm trying to write this all down while you speak. Tiffany's epiphanies. We just shared the link in the chat here. This is how powerful our guest is today. You drop a problem in front of her and boom, here's the advice. Thank you, Tiffany. And for the second half of our conversation, I would love to dive into our big question of today. Can work be your community? And of course, we will start this question by asking all of you through Menti, can work be your community? So if you see Liz, the producer of Promote Daily, sharing the Menti screen, you can now just pull out your phone, go to camera mode, scan the QR code, and start sharing with us what you think about our big question of today. Can work be your community? And you just go to the page and respond to our question. I think there is already people typing here in the chat. So I hope that some of your shares and some of your comments will inform our conversation with Tiffany, our guest today. And of course, Tiffany, I'll turn this to you now. You said in a recent interview, quote, community is a necessity. And we're requiring now that our workplaces provide that for us. And I already said that we have had this conversation in some angles, in different styles and ways with different people on the show. And earlier in this season, we hosted David Spinks, who is a professional community builder with a large audience. He writes a really great newsletter about professional community building. And we sort of asked him the same question. And he said, you know what? I think the best thing a company can do for you as an employee is to help you find community outside of work, not in work, outside of work. And he said, I think that jobs are ultimately tied to capitalism. It cannot be relied upon as a source of core community. Really interesting opinion. So bouncing this off of you, Tiffany, who also dedicates your life to building community with and for others. What do you think? Can work be your community?
Yes, absolutely. Remember, I've got a case of paranoia. So if the answer to that question was no, be really sad, in part because of the amount of time that we often spend working in our jobs. If the people who you're spending hours and hours with on a weekly basis to try to move some initiative forward can't be viewed, or you can't rely on in some way, shape, or form as community that can help advance you, that's a lot of time to be spending outside of community. And I think that that has a really huge impact, and it's having, in a lot of ways, a negative impact on where we are today. People have moved in so many ways outside of their immediate family construct, in a lot of ways for opportunity, whether it's out of their community to a new city, to a new country. We're seeing fewer and fewer people being attached to organized religion. There are higher rates of loneliness. We're living in a digital world in which we're spending a lot of time on these devices. And what's happened is that it's put more pressure on the workplace to fulfill more human needs than the workplace was really designed for. And so I do think that anyone in an organization who cares about the retention, who cares about the advancement, and cares about the well-being of their talent, and in my opinion, talent is everything to an enterprise, has got to prioritize community. Now, I do think that a community that's designed to accelerate you, and you can have different communities for different reasons, but a community that's designed to really accelerate you and help you to realize your life intentions, it would be helpful if there were some dynamics at play. One of those dynamics is that it's a diverse community. And this is why I do think that it's possible for the workplace to provide a meaningful community, because oftentimes it's one of our most diverse spaces that we operate in. Certainly in our personal lives, often we're spending more and more time with people who are like us. Number two is, I think it's important that a community that accelerates you has some level of accountability. And this is why, again, I do think that it's possible to find some sense of community in the workplace, because the workplace is usually an environment in which you have some goal you're trying to achieve, and there's an infrastructure in place to hold you accountable for that. And then third, I do think that it's harder for this third dynamic in the workplace, which is really about objectivity, because a workplace has politics. But sometimes the people who are closest to us, who love us the most, are not necessarily the best community when it comes to our evolution, our growth, because they're so invested in the decisions that we make that we either aren't fully honest with them about the decisions that we need to make and want to make, or we feel like the decisions that we make will have such an impact on them that we don't make them in a very forthright manner. So if the community has diversity and it has a level of accountability and it has some objectivity, I do think that it's possible to have that in the workplace. Now, the catch-22 of that is that workplaces that I think are doing a great job of this are providing opportunities for their employees to interact with people outside of the organization. But I do think that it's possible, especially depending upon the size of your organization, the mission of your organization, for you to find that within the workplace.
Have you seen you have mentored so many people. Have you seen an organization, or are you maybe even working with an organization right now where you say, this is an example I would really recommend for you to look into, read on about, because this organization is building community in a very special way that I have not seen in many other places?
Yes. I'm saying I just sold my company. It's called The Crew. You can see it behind you. So I have to still get my language together. But one of our partners is a company called Stitch Fix that I feel like is doing this in a really great way. Just Works is another client of The Cruise. I just sold my company to another company called Luminary. And Luminary now has a great model. It's The Crew empowered by Luminary, in which you sponsor your employees to participate in a community called a crew. It's 8 people, some of whom might work within the company, but some of whom work outside of the company. And you get very clear about what you want to achieve. We call goals intentions in the crew. And you upload those intentions, you're tracking them, you're meeting with your crew once a month. But it's an opportunity for you to work on both personal and professional intentions, whether that be I need to save money for my retirement, or I need to spend more time with my kids, or I need to, get my glutes to where I want them to be. Collaborating with a group of people who are invested in you and want to help you accelerate, but you may or may not work with, I think is key. And those are just a couple of the companies that, they've been partnering with that I think are really open and ready to invest in all of the parts of their talent. It's not sufficient anymore to only say we're only going to invest in someone's professional life because that impacts our bottom line. The personal is the professional. Who you're partnered with impacts the acceleration in your career. So in as much as you can treat people in a more holistic manner, I think those companies are doing really well.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing all that. I'm still processing the sort of rules that you shared for how communities can work. I think they also align with, what Sabine and Linda and Aveli have shared in the chat here with us, that it can be, but it has to have guardrails. It has to have certain leadership qualities, and it has to have boundaries. And it can't be your only community that you rely on. It can be a part of it. And I also love how you zoomed out in the beginning and said, well, where people are with community right now is a really difficult spot. And before we talk briefly about, how the algorithm works that you created to help people find their crew, do you see a generational gap there? I was just faced with this question while working with an organization that we partner with, where somebody said there's a study that says for us, the Gen X, millennials, belonging super important, community work super important. Younger folks coming into the workspace right now, much less important. Is that something that you would put a +1 on? Is that something that you have observed as well? Or is it have you maybe observed the opposite because of digital technology, because of it being so simple and easy today to join so many communities at a time, that younger folks even needed more than we used to? What's your personal experience with the generational differences and community at work and belonging?
So I think that community is a human need. We all have, I think, a human desire to feel a sense of belonging and to be able to see ourselves and others and both contribute, meaning to help other people, and to also receive some level of nourishment in exchange. The difference generationally that I see is how community manifests, what scaffolding, what community means, but also how people communicate community. And I had a very recent example that may seem very small, but it was actually quite large. I have a 17-year-old son who, he didn't say he needed dating advice, but he was effectively asking his mom for dating advice. And I had a pretty radical recommendation, which was that he pick up his phone and that he dial this girl's number and that he wait for her to answer and that he actually speaks to her on the phone and that he invites her to the ice cream shop called Sugar Hill Creamery that's like 2 blocks away from our apartment in Harlem, and that he invite her to actually join him at the ice cream shop, that he buy her an ice cream cone and that they sit down and they talk. And my son's response was like, yo, mom, that is so dope. Like, just call her and then yes, exactly. Because they think that a relationship is one in which you're just sending data across this device. Whereas I feel, because I'm a Gen Xer, that a relationship is in real time, face-to-face communication. So I think that my form of communication and my definition of community is better for the human spirit and the human soul. I'm sure there are scientists that would agree with me, but we all need community. And I think it's a human need. It's just how we communicate community and how we perceive a human interaction to be more prioritized some parts than others.
And it's funny that you share this, may I say, maybe slightly outdated model of, asking somebody out, while at the same time you also, with the crew, developed an algorithm to match women into what you call accountability circles to help them meet their life goals. So you actually use technology to bring people together. I was part of a similar experience by a large organization earlier this year, where they also sent out a huge questionnaire and then brought us together in a room with, I think it was like 8 other people, and they were really trying hard. It was the first time they were trying something like this. It didn't work out at all. We had a nice chat, but that was it. We never met again. And I wonder what you did that made it successful, that made this algorithm matching women successful. What's the secret sauce?
If I had to sum it up in one word, it would be scaffolding. We provided scaffolding. So I'm not sure that, don't tell anyone, but that the algorithm is really the secret sauce. What we did with the algorithm was we really prioritized diversity. So we asked people a lot of questions about who they were, how they identified, and we ensured there was a diverse group of people together. I think what creates the sustainability, though, is what happens when they actually come together. So one thing that's really important, and that I think is important for all community, is that there is some organizing principle. It can't just be we're coming together, like-minded people, to just, sip wine and eat cheese and discuss things. In the crew, the organizing principle were those intentions. So you were there because you wanted to accelerate something or one or more things that are very specific in your life, and your crew was there to hold you accountable. And the reason why that organizing principle is really important is because when you bring people together across boundaries, there has to be something that they all believe in and that they all have some kind of common experience around in order to prevent their differences from really colliding with one another. The second thing that we provided that was a part of the scaffolding was a peer coaching model. So if you invite 8 people into a dialogue together, but you don't have any rules of engagement, similar to what was said in the chat, then human dynamics take over. So for example, in the crew, each person goes around and gives an update on their intentions. Each person is timed. So one person is their timekeeper while they're sharing. Another person is their note taker while they're sharing. And the group holds one another accountable for ensuring that everyone has an opportunity to share. So the natural dynamic of people who tend to contribute more in a group setting doesn't drown out the people who tend to hold back in a group setting.
Interesting.
There are a series of peer coaching questions that we ask. The most important one of which is, what are you going to do between now and the next time we see you at the next gathering to move this intention forward? What is your one step that you can hold yourself accountable to, that when we gather again, you're going to feel that you're moving forward. And it's a really beautiful thing with human progress. When you feel that you're with a group of people and you are moving forward in your life with that group of people, it kind of doesn't matter what you're moving forward on. It doesn't matter so much if sometimes the people annoy you. You feel a gendered a sense of loyalty and a sense of commitment to that group of people. There's more to the scaffolding, but I think it's really important that you provide structure and that you provide some kind of organizing principle. Why are we all here? And how will we each know that we're accomplishing something significant?
This is for you, Tiffany. The guitar is coming back. It sounds beautiful as ever. So I think this is a mic drop moment where we can just process what Tiffany just said. And thank you, Dario, for helping us think here. Oh man, this music, I could spend all day just with Emilia and Dario in a physical or virtual room and just being massaged by their art. Thank you guys. And it was interesting also to see Sabine shared in the chat. Wow, isn't this kind of crazy when your company sponsors a crew and then they know that you're so focused on your personal life and your hobbies and maybe not even on work. And then Linda shared, you know what? I read an article yesterday describing a company that since the pandemic is fully remote and they pay each employee $100 a month stipend to do any kind of activity they want to do with another employee. Idea is to foster a sense of culture and community. Can be anything from getting nails done together to going out for drinks, whatever. You can spend $100 a month. And Linda is a human resources professional, very experienced one, saying, this is the very first time I've heard of this kind of initiative. This is where I think this is where your son going on an ice cream date and your algorithm meet Tiffany, right? I mean, this is how it's done. What would you say?
Oh, absolutely. I love that, by the way. And, I should say that one of the reasons why I really value the crew as a platform is that individuals can upload intentions knowing that on an individual level, their employer won't know that they're looking to buy a new home. But on aggregate, we do share the data with employers so that they have a better sense of where their talent is at in terms of their ambitions and their dreams. In fact, one of the things that sometimes people find mind-blowing is that we'll even share the percentage of individuals who uploaded they're looking for a new job, which we feel like you should know as an employer. So I love that idea. I'm not surprised. I think that employers that really understand and get that investing in the whole person is an investment in what they contribute in the workplace is so important in today's world.
And we have the link now in the chat from hrbrew.com, the website that told the story of Athena, which is a company that fairly enough, is all about improving workplace culture, that is offering this program, compliance platform. And I think it's a beautiful example. Thank you, Linda, for bringing this to the room today. And Tiffany, I just want to hang with you and see you smile and get advice from you. I don't know how we deserve this luxury of having this hour here with you today and share this special time of your life also. And we have 4 minutes of time left. So how do we do this, Tiffany? Maybe we enter a fire round together. First question that was upvoted is, what's your favorite community?
That's a trick question. This is public, but I will be honest and say my favorite community is my sorority. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and it's my favorite community, I think, because I'm the oldest of 4 girls, which means that I'm always the big sister, and I just relish in being in a community of other sisters in which I can be the little sister, and then I can get what I need from my sorors.
I see a strong connection to the idea for the crew here. Thank you for sharing that. How did you get the idea for the crew is actually the second most upvoted question.
I have a crew. I've been meeting with them for at least 15 years. We meet once a quarter, and we have been doing almost exactly verbatim what I just described to you. We have dinners, everyone goes around and gives an update. We hold one another accountable. What are you going to do between now and the next time we see you? And there's no way that I would be the founder that I am, the mother that I am, the civic leader that I am without my crew.
Wow. Shout out to your crew and to this amazing accountability group of female leaders that you're a part of, and that brought you to this moment and to this place. Last question from our fire round here. What was the hardest part of writing the book, Drop the Ball?
Giving it to my husband and letting him read it and seeing what parts he was going to say. No way, you cannot publish that. Because it's a bit of a romantic comedy, and so he's a big part of it. And just
wait, he censored it?
Yes, he does. Yes, I definitely gave it to him before I gave it to my editor.
And he cut out parts that are not in the book now?
He did. Yes, he did. It's why I've been married for 26 years. You can't publish a tell-all, not let the person read it. It's still a great book, but I have to say it would have been even better if the parts that I had written that he let stay in.
I think this deserves another strum from Dario, what you just said, Tiffany. My book is amazing, but it would have been so much better without my husband. Amen. Tiffany, you're amazing. I thank you for being on the show today. You have time on your hands, maybe now that you're not a full-time single running CEO anymore, but part of a larger organization. Congratulations again for this new mothership that you're a part of. What is next for you? What are the plans that you have for 2024 that you might want to share with us now, so we can hold you accountable when we invite you back on the show?
I love this. Well, my life's work is advancing women and girls. That's pretty much why I'm on the planet. So anything that I do in the future will be about that. I am particularly interested and will be laying my body on the table for women entrepreneurs. As you know, conceiving of an idea, putting it out there into the world, scaling it is one of the most hardest things that someone can do. But I believe that our economy is needed, and I believe that we need more women doing it. So I'll be supporting women entrepreneurs. I'll be helping my high school senior get into college
and have dates
and have really a great, hopefully healthy dating life. That's what I'll be doing. And writing, which I haven't been able to do as a founder.
Amazing. And what was the kitschy phrase again that you would recommend for me to throw at my daughter next time? Believe it.
If you believe it, you can achieve it. That's what my dad used to always say.
If anything, what I take away from this session is to spend this hour with you has advanced all of us. And I want to thank you for being here in this space with us. And I hope that when we change our own show next year towards more community building, that we can invite you back. And I'm of course totally putting you on the spot right now because I'm publicly asking you this question, and just talk about the amazing communities that you have been building, that you are a part of, and that you help others build, because you're a really someone to look up to in so many different ways. Is there anything, before we hear the final song of the hour, anything that you would like to share with us, Tiffany, that we haven't spoken about, that's maybe your kitschy life motto that you haven't shared with us yet, or a final word from your soul for this hour?
If you want something in your life that you've never had before, you're going to have to do something that you've never done before in order to get that. And I encourage you today, tomorrow, the next day to reflect on, what am I doing that I've never done before in order to advance myself and my community and my family and the world? Thank you so much. This was such a joy.
This is Remote Daily.